Hey y'all, it's March the 15th, 2016, and I might remind you, we're neck deep in the tribulation. Right? Today should prove to be quite an interesting day as Ohio and somebody else is holding their primaries. In fact, every single day seems to be quite interesting, and they only seem to be getting exponentially more interesting as this year goes on. Right? But I want to step away from that for this video, and I want to talk to y'all about um, a goal, a recently stated goal of this channel, of myself personally. You might be aware of it. I made a video a little while back, and assuredly you're going to see many, many more videos pertaining to the idea of stopping out and relieving from our midst not only the sexual abuse of children, but the overall general abuse of children. It's an abomination, and quite simply, it's just not practical. It's not pragmatic. Right? But this video in particular that I'm making because I was reminded certain scriptures, certain verses. For example, Jesus said, and a lot of people think Jesus is made of just love. He's a ball of love, and that's it. And he loves everybody, including Satan. That's not true. It's simply not true. That's a lie from Satan himself. Right? But Jesus said that there are people on this earth who absolutely deserve to be pummeled to death with rocks. All right. So believe it or not, he hated on some folks. Right? And who I'm referring to right now are the abusers of children. There's many other people who deserve to be pummeled to death with rocks. Right? But he also said this. He also said, yeah, you can pummel these people to death with rocks. However, I want the people who have not sinned at all to be the ones to pick up these rocks and start throwing them. You start thinking about that, you think, well, everybody on this earth has sinned. So therefore, there's no one deserving really of picking up rocks and throwing them at people until they die. All right? He was trying to make a point, and I believe he made it. All right? Not only that, there's a verse that says, hey, listen, your brother, he might have a splinter in his eye. You might want to take that out or help him take that out for him. Hey, but before you do that, you might want to notice that there's a telephone pole basically sticking out of your eyeball. I want to pluck that out first before you go ahead and help your brother. I say that to say this. I'm over here with many, many others who are trying to stop the sexual abuse of children and the abuse of children in general. But meanwhile, I got to make sure that I'm righteous first. Righteous enough to be a part of this movement. Okay, I got to admit to where I sin in life. All right, so I'm choosing to do it publicly on this video. All right, and over the past couple of years, I've come to realize more and more and more and more that spanking of children, physically striking them, it's actually not the way to go. And a lot of people have been spanked and they've grown up to be perfectly alright individuals, maybe law-abiding individuals, hard-working individuals. However, I don't believe that the spanking necessarily brought that out of them. All right. In fact, more times than not, from my observance, spanking has only added to their emotionally messed up upbringings. It's taken away from their confidence. It's taken away from their abilities to reason. It's taken away from their abilities to not react emotionally. And it's for this reason that's just not practical. Like I said, I'm here to repent today. None of us can go back into a time machine, but if we could, if there was time machines, the very first thing I would take back is ever having stricken my child. And that's not to say I struck her very hard. I merely swatted her on the thigh sometimes, or on the wrist. And that's not even to say that I made a habit of it. I've done it like maybe a handful of times in her whole life. But I come to realize that once is too much. That once is too much. All right? And so I have to publicly admit that, yes, I've done that. No, there was no use to that. And also, I do want to mention that as a human being, an individual, I firmly understand that how the Bible explains is the best way for a child to be brought up is by a woman and a man, particularly his or her mother and father. Right. So, government intervention in any sort of way, for any sort of reason, I'm personally not a fan of it. The Bible isn't a fan of it. Right. But that being said, I believe it's on us to take it upon ourselves to go ahead and eliminate that from our culture. can't jump into a time machine, but I sure can repent. I sure can talk to y'all about, the idea that maybe you don't want to do this. Maybe you don't have a baby yet. Maybe you got a baby right now. And I could talk to y'all reasonably about the fact that that just doesn't make sense to strike a child. All right? There's many, many other ways to get a child to do what's best for them, to get them to do what you want. All right? Specifically, reasoning with them, explaining to them verbally how you have their best interest in heart, and you just don't want them to do unsafe things. That's all. They'll understand you. Not only that, I want to speak to the men out there, fathers. There's obviously a war against fathers here in America, and it's explicit. It's coming from all angles. All right, the powers that be absolutely don't want anyone to have a father. All right, and they're making this obvious. But I want to make a talk to fathers out there who have access to their children. All right, the numbers are shrinking every day. But I want to talk to y'all. You might say, well, my child needs discipline, and yes, your child does need discipline. Every child needs discipline. And what I have to say to elaborate on that is, you can look at your child right now, or the child that you might have in the future, and think about the size of them. All right. People with little children out there, you might understand that you're about 10 times bigger than your little children. All right. Especially fathers out there. I want to convince you that right now, visually, just visually, you are quite intimidating to your child. They know that they don't have any chance in physically overtaking you. So if you just carry yourself with a certain amount of authority, a certain amount of manlyhood, you don't understand that they're gonna fear you right off the bat. You won't have to strike them ever. For them to do what you want, for them to keep themselves safe and out of harm's way. All right. So I want y'all to all think very long and hard about that. If we're going to be against the sexual abuse of children and the general abuse of children, then quite honestly, like Michael Jackson said, like many people have said, you're going to have to start with yourself. I'm going to have to start with myself. I'll tell you one thing, you ain't ever going to see me spank a child in any sort of way from here on out, ever again. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. Inevitably, all it will ever do is subtract from that child's self-confidence, subtract from that child's ability to reason, subtract from that child's ability to react to situations on a not hysterically emotional level. And we've seen the product of all sorts of beatings. We've seen the product of that playing out in our culture right now, right? To the point where people are in the streets having screaming matches with each other instead of debates. They're fighting and shooting each other instead of figuring out how everybody has enough resources in order to live a very fantastic life if we just stop stomping all over each other the way that we do. All right, 2016, that's a cornerstone. That's the pinnacle of change. Either we're going to change for the better, or we're going to change for the absolute worst. All right, and certain people will go this way, certain people will go that way. All right, me personally, I've seen what I've done wrong. I'm here to start changing it. I'm here to start changing for the babies. God bless the babies. This is March the 15th, 2016.